When you click a raw geographic coordinate online, you likely expect a simple, clean interface to tell you exactly where you are. But if you end up on a Wikipedia GeoHack page, like this one for Cockermouth, you don't get a map. You get an unfiltered directory of dozens of specialized geographic databases. Faced with that wall of text, the immediate reaction for most of us is to bail. We scan the page, find the familiar Google or Apple Maps link, and retreat to safety. Commercial apps are optimized for one thing: getting a vehicle from point A to point B. They strip out the environmental, historical, and topographical context to keep the screen uncluttered. Achieving geographic intelligence requires matching the specific mapping tool to the actual stakes of your objective. If you look closely at that wall of links, you'll see they aren't random. They cluster around specific technical requirements. We can filter this chaos using a strategic triage method that branches into 3 distinct paths based on your goal. For simple urban navigation, the basic logistics branch leads directly to the global commercial apps. They offer the lowest friction for quick routing. If your objective involves elevation or off-road navigation, you move to the topographical survival branch. Here, regional databases like OS Maps or OpenStreetMap take over. Finally, the Deep Intelligence branch contains specialized trackers and historical archives used for macro analysis. Stepping outside the commercial map ecosystem requires a deliberate trade-off. You are sacrificing accessibility and UI convenience for massive data depth. Commercial routing apps lose their utility the moment you leave the city center. They often render a complex, impassable mountain range as a simple, empty green polygon. Regional mapping systems, like Britain's Ordnance Survey, focus on recording physical terrain reality. This concrete trig point overlooking the coast is part of the actual physical infrastructure surveyors use to verify elevation and anchor topographic data. Operating these maps means abandoning the standard street address. Instead, you navigate using an alphanumeric grid reference system, like NY12153-30443. Using that system provides access to specific data layers, like contour lines, public rights-of-way, and exact property boundaries that commercial apps hide to save space. Learning to read these maps takes effort, but the safety risks of relying on commercial apps for wilderness traversal are significant. For physical outdoor safety, interface convenience must be sacrificed for granular environmental reality. Even the best topographical maps eventually struggle with recency. Satellite imagery and commercial street views are often months or years out of date. OpenStreetMap bypasses corporate update schedules by relying on decentralized crowdsourced data. Local contributors can update changes to the environment almost as they happen. Active research often involves cross-referencing OpenStreetMap with localized photo databases like GeoGraph to verify current ground conditions. This image of the Fletcher's Fearless Clothing ghost sign in Cockermouth is the type of hyper-specific local detail these databases capture. Human observers record things that algorithms and satellite passes miss. The friction here is manual. You have to align multiple separate browser tabs yourself, rather than relying on a unified application. Achieving maximum data recency requires the user to actively synthesize multiple data streams. Analytical researchers often track geographic changes over decades to understand the history of a site. Historical map overlay databases, like those from the National Library of Scotland, allow for tracking land use progression over a century of development. This is a high-friction process. It requires manually aligning outdated historical coordinate grids with modern GPS markers. Specialized databases also monitor live environmental data, like these seismogram charts and mapped geological shifts, to track structural changes beneath the surface geography. The deepest layers of analytical geographic intelligence exist inversely to user-friendliness. The harder it is to extract, the more valuable the insight. We map these tools comparing time investment against unique intelligence. Commercial apps sit bottom left, quick logistics, low depth. Trackers like Flight Radar 24 are top left. Crowdsourced platforms move bottom right, requiring manual effort. Analytical databases hit top right, maximum effort for peak context. There is no universal best map, only the correct optimization of effort for the specific data you need. If you're a time-poor traveler, default to commercial maps to optimize for speed and turn-by-turn routing. If you are a terrain optimizer, abandon the commercial UI and invest time learning regional grid systems to guarantee physical safety. For the OSINT researcher, the path involves cross-referencing macro satellite data with historical archives to extract unfiltered ground intelligence. Effective geographic intelligence depends on knowing precisely which database to query before you ever look at a screen.